I never planned on pretending to be someone's boyfriend, especially not his. But the first time Evan slipped his hand into mine, smiled at the realtor, and said, "Yeah, we've been together for 3 years." Something twisted in my chest that had nothing to do with acting. Because the worst part wasn't that it was fake, it was how natural it felt. It started with money. It always does. I was 27, freshly promoted, newly single, and one rent increase away from moving back into my parents' house in New Jersey. Evan was 29, charming in an effortless way, and had just inherited a share in his aunt's condo, with one very annoying condition attached. She was old school, he explained, sitting across from me at the bar, nursing a whiskey like it had personally offended him. In her will, she specified the place could only be sold or rented to a married couple or long-term domestic partners. I laughed. I actually laughed. "You're kidding." "I wish." He rolled his eyes. "My lawyer says it's airtight. If I want to cash out or even move in, I need to prove I'm in a serious relationship." "And you thought of me because?" I raised an eyebrow. He hesitated. Just for a second, long enough for me to notice. "Because you're gay, single, responsible, and you don't have a boyfriend who'd murder me." That earned him a snort from me. High praise. We'd known each other for about a year. Same gym, same friend group, same habit of ending up drunk at the same after parties. Friendly, flirty sometimes, but never that. Evan was one of those guys who blurred lines without ever crossing them, a master of plausible deniability. "So," he continued, leaning forward, voice lower now, "I need a boyfriend, on paper, for a few months, just long enough to satisfy the paperwork and the HOA." "And what do I get out of this?" I asked, already knowing I was in trouble because I hadn't shut it down immediately. He smiled. That stupid, disarming smile. "Free rent in a luxury condo, waterfront view, no deposit, no utilities." I stared at him. "You're evil." "I prefer resourceful." I should have said no. Any sane person would have said no. But I was tired of cramped apartments and roommates who labeled almond milk as communal, and Evan. Evan was easy to be around. Too easy. "So what?" I said slowly. "We pretend to be a couple, hold hands, smile for paperwork?" "Exactly," he said quickly. "No weird stuff. No pressure. Totally fake." Fake. That word should have comforted me. Instead, my stomach fluttered. The condo was ridiculous. Floor-to-ceiling windows, clean lines, warm wood floors, and a view that made my old place look like a storage unit with plumbing. The realtor couldn't stop smiling as she showed us around. "And this is perfect for couples," she gushed. "So much natural light, romantic sunsets." Evan didn't miss a beat. He slid an arm around my waist. "We love it already," he said. I felt it instantly, the heat of his palm, the way his thumb rested just a little too comfortably against my hip. I stiffened for half a second, then relaxed. Because pulling away would have looked weird, because this was part of the deal. Because my body apparently didn't get the memo that this was fake. The realtor glanced between us, clearly satisfied. "You two are adorable," she said. Evan squeezed my side gently. "Tell me about it." I shot him a look, but he was already smiling down at me, soft and convincing, and dangerously good at this. That night, after the papers were signed and the keys were handed over, we stood alone in the living room, the city lights spilling in around us. "Well," he said, dropping his arm and suddenly looking awkward. "Welcome home, boyfriend." I laughed, trying to shake the tension. "Don't get used to it. Trust me," he said, a strange note in his voice. "I won't." But when we unpacked, when we cooked dinner together, when we sat on opposite ends of the couch, pretending not to notice how quiet it felt, I started to realize something unsettling. We were very good at pretending. Too good. And I couldn't tell where the act ended, and the truth was about to begin. We set rules the next morning. It felt necessary, like drawing chalk lines around something dangerous and pretending that made it safe. "No kissing," Evan said, leaning against the kitchen counter with a mug of coffee. He looked unfairly good for someone who'd slept on a mattress still wrapped in plastic. Obviously, I replied. No getting involved with each other. That was implied. No falling in love, he added, smirking like it was a joke. I snorted. Relax. I'm not 12. But something about the way he held my gaze just a beat too long made my chest tighten. And, he continued, public affection only when necessary. HOA events, neighbors, paperwork stuff. Define necessary. He shrugged. Will no, that should have been the end of it. Instead, it was the beginning. The first HOA mixer happened a week later. I hadn't planned on going, but Evan insisted. Visibility, he said. We need witnesses. So there we were, standing on the rooftop terrace with overpriced wine and people who looked like they'd never worried about rent in their lives. Evan slipped into character instantly. Hand on my lower back. Casual touches. Leaning in when he laughed, introducing me as my partner like he'd been doing it for years. And the thing was, I played along just as easily. When a woman asked how we met, Evan glanced at me. Jim, I said smoothly. He stole my water bottle. Evan grinned. You were flirting with me. I rolled my eyes. You were staring at your reflection. The woman laughed. You two are adorable. I felt Evan's fingers press slightly into my back at that. Too much? I didn't pull away. At home, things got strange. Not bad. Just quiet in a way that made me hyper-aware of him. We cooked together most nights, watched shows on the couch, shared takeouts straight from the containers, like a real couple, too tired to plate anything. But we kept space. Or tried to. There were moments, tiny, almost nothing moments, where the rules blurred. Like the night I fell asleep on the couch during a movie and woke up with a blanket tucked around me and Evan sitting on the floor, back against the couch, pretending he hadn't been watching me breathe. Or the morning he came out of the shower in just a towel and said, sorry, without sounding sorry at all. Or the way he started knocking before entering my room, but always waited just long enough for me to answer shirtless. I told myself it was coincidence. I told myself a lot of things. The first crack happened on a Tuesday. I came home late. Bad date, worse conversation, zero chemistry. I dropped my keys louder than necessary and kicked off my shoes. Evan was in the kitchen, pouring himself a drink. Rough night? He asked. You could say that. He handed me a glass without asking. Whiskey. Neat. I took it. He asked if I'd ever consider an open relationship on the first date. Evan grimaced. Bold, more like desperate. I drank, harder than I should have. Evan watched me in a way that made my skin prickle. He didn't deserve you anyway, he said. I laughed bitterly. You don't know that. I know enough. That was when it hit me. The jealousy, subtle, wrapped in concern, but unmistakable. I met his eyes. Why do you care? The question hung between us. He didn't answer right away. Just took a sip of his drink, jaw tightening. I don't, he said finally. Just looking out for my fake boyfriend. Fake. Right. I stepped closer than necessary. Well, I said quietly, you're getting very good at it. For a moment. Just one. Neither of us moved. Then Evan stepped back. Careful, he said, voice slow. That's how games get messy. I nodded. He was right. And I was already in too deep to pretend I didn't want it messy. After that night, we both pretended nothing had changed. Which was funny, because everything had. Evan got quieter around me. Not distant, just careful. Like every word now passed through a filter before leaving his mouth. The easy flirting vanished. The casual touches disappeared. If we sat on the couch, there was a clear gap between us, a cushion suddenly doing the work our willpower couldn't. It should have been a relief. Instead, it made me restless. I started noticing things I hadn't before. Or maybe I'd noticed them all along and just couldn't ignore them anymore. The way Evan hummed under his breath when he cooked. The way he rubbed the back of his neck when he was stressed. The way his voice dropped when he said my name. Like he wasn't doing it on purpose, but his body was betraying him anyway. And then there was the jealousy. Not just his. Mine. It hit me the first time he brought someone home. A guy from his office. Tall, clean-cut, confident in that polished LinkedIn profile way. They came in laughing, already a little drunk, and Evan didn't see me at first. I was sitting on the couch, pretending to scroll through my phone. "Hey," Evan said when he noticed me, just a touch too casual. "This is Mark." Mark smiled. "You must be the boyfriend." The word landed wrong. Heavy. "Yeah," I said. "That's me." Evan's eyes flicked to mine. A warning? An apology? I couldn't tell. They went to Evan's room not long after. The door didn't slam, but it didn't stay open either. I told myself to be normal. I told myself to put in headphones. I told myself this was none of my business. I failed at all three. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, every sound amplified. Laughter. Footsteps. The faint creak of the bed. It shouldn't have bothered me. But it did. It bothered me so much that when Mark finally left an hour later, I was already awake, already angry, already wide open in ways I didn't know how to close again. Evan knocked on my door, soft, hesitant. "Hey," he said when I opened it. "You good?" I leaned against the doorframe. "Why wouldn't I be?" He hesitated. "You seemed quiet." "I live here," I said. "Quiet comes with the territory." He nodded slowly, clearly not convinced. "Look," he said, lowering his voice, "about earlier." "Don't," I cut in, his mouth closed. "You don't owe me explanations," I said. "This is fake, remember?" The word again. Fake. His jaw tightened. Right. We stood there in silence, the air thick and uncomfortable. Then he said it. "I didn't even want him here." I looked up sharply. "What?" Evan exhaled, dragging a hand down his face. "I asked him over because I thought it would reset things." "Reset what?" "This." He gestured between us. "Whatever this is." I swallowed. "And did it work?" He laughed under his breath. "Not even a little." Something shifted then. A line crossed quietly, without permission. "You were listening," he added. It wasn't a question. I didn't deny it. I hated it, I admitted. The silence that followed was different, charged, dangerous. "Me too," Evan said. My heart slammed into my ribs. "You were the one with him." "I know," he said. "And I couldn't stop thinking about how pissed you'd be." I stared at him, pulse roaring in my ears. "Evan," I said carefully, "this is exactly what the rules were for." "I know," he repeated. He stepped closer, not touching, just close enough that I could feel the heat off him. "But tell me this," he said quietly. "If this is fake, why does it feel like cheating?" I didn't answer. Because I didn't have one that wouldn't change everything. The mistake happened 3 days later, which is funny, because we were both trying so hard not to make one. We avoided each other like adults, pretending distance was maturity. Different schedules. Short conversations. No late-night couch hangs. No shared bottles of wine. No accidental brushing of hands. It worked. Until it didn't. The power went out on a Thursday night. A storm rolled in off the water, loud and sudden, rain hammering the windows like it had something to prove. I was halfway through microwaving leftovers when everything went dark. "Shit," I muttered. From down the hall, Evan called out, "You good?" "Yeah, just starving." A moment later, he appeared in the kitchen holding his phone, flashlight on. He was wearing sweatpants and an old college hoodie, hair messy, glasses on. Domestic. Familiar. Dangerous. "Breaker's probably fine," he said. "Building-wide outage." We stood there, in the glow of his phone, the storm flashing outside like punctuation. "Well," I said, "guess that's dinner." He smiled despite himself. "I've got candles." Of course he did. We ended up on the couch with cold wine and takeout containers lit by flickering candlelight, like idiots who didn't realize how cliché we looked. "This feels illegal," I said. "Everything feels illegal by candlelight," he replied. We laughed. It was easy again. Too easy. That was when he told me about his aunt. Not the will. I knew that part. But the rest. "She always asked when I was going to settle down," he said, staring into his glass. "Used to tell me I hid behind charm so I didn't have to let anyone close." I glanced at him. "Sounds perceptive," he huffed. "Annoyingly." The thunder cracked overhead, close enough to make the windows shake. Instinctively, Evan leaned toward me. He froze halfway there. I didn't move away. "I didn't plan this," he said quietly. "You know that, right?" "I know," I said. "I didn't plan on you." My chest tightened. "Then why does it feel like you did?" He met my eyes, candlelight dancing in them, and for the first time since we started this stupid arrangement, he didn't dodge the truth. "Because I stopped wanting it to be fake," he said. The words settled heavy between us. I should have stood up. I should have changed the subject. I should have reminded him of the rules. Instead, I said, "Evan, if we cross this line, we don't get to uncross it." "I know." "And if it goes wrong?" "I know," he said again, softer this time. The storm roared outside, rain slamming sideways now. The lights were still out. The world had shrunk to the space between us. He reached out, hesitated, then let his fingers rest against my knee. Barely touching, waiting. I could have stopped it. I didn't. I covered his hand with mine. That was it. That was the mistake. Because once we touched, really touched, the pretending collapsed under its own weight. Evan leaned in slowly, giving me every chance to pull away. I didn't. Our kiss wasn't rushed or desperate. It was careful, like we were afraid the moment might shatter if we moved too fast. When we finally pulled back, foreheads resting together, he exhaled a shaky breath. "Tell me to stop," he murmured. I didn't. Instead, I whispered, "This was supposed to be fake." He smiled against my mouth. "Yeah, we're terrible at this." The morning after the kiss was worse than the kiss itself. Because kisses fade, awkward breakfasts don't. I woke up early, heart still racing like I'd done something irreversible, which, judging by the tightness in my chest, I probably had. The storm had passed, sunlight spilling through the windows, like nothing in the world had gone wrong. Evan was already up. I could hear him in the kitchen, moving slowly, deliberately, like he was bracing for impact. I stood in my doorway for a full minute before stepping out. "Morning," I said. He turned, smiled, too normal. "Hey," that was it. No jokes, no teasing, no casual boyfriend energy, just two men standing in the wreckage of something unnamed. We ate in silence. Every movement felt loud. The scrape of a fork, the hum of the fridge, the way Evan's knee bounced under the table like he was burning energy he didn't know what to do with. Finally, he cleared his throat. "So," he said, "about last night, here it is. I don't regret it," he added quickly. "Just, before you panic." I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Good. Because neither do I. His shoulders dropped. Just a little. "But," I continued, "we need to talk about what that means." He nodded. "Yeah!" We stared at each other again. The same charged silence. Different stakes. "We can't keep pretending," I said. "Not now." "I know. And we can't half do this either," I added. "I'm not interested in being a secret or a convenient blur? Evan's jaw tightened, not defensively, but thoughtfully. I don't want that either, he said. I just didn't expect it to feel this real. I laughed softly. That makes two of us. Reality didn't wait long to remind us why the rules existed. That afternoon, Evan got an email from the HOA. Subject line, annual couples, dinner, attendance required. He read it aloud, then looked at me slowly. You realize what this looks like now, right? I nodded. Yeah. A room full of people who think we're together. And now we actually might be, he exhaled. This is how things get messy. They already are, I said. The question is whether we lie better or stop lying altogether. He didn't answer. Not right away. The dinner was 2 nights later. White tablecloths, assigned seating, name cards with Evan and my name printed in elegant script like the universe was mocking us. Everyone watched us, not in a suspicious way, in that casual, satisfied way people look at couples they assume makes sense. Evan's hand found mine under the table without thinking. This time, it wasn't for show. A woman across from us smiled. You two seem closer than ever. Evan glanced at me. I could have pulled away. Instead, I squeezed his hand. Yeah, I said. We are. The words felt dangerous. They also felt true. Later, on the balcony, the city lights humming below us, Evan leaned against the railing beside me. We can't keep calling this fake, he said quietly. No, I agreed. But if we make it real, we risk losing what already works. He turned to me. And if we don't, I met his eyes, we'll lose it anyway. He nodded, like he already knew that. Then he did something that surprised me. He kissed me. Not hidden, not cautious, not pretending. Out in the open. When he pulled back, he smiled, nervous, real, unguarded. So, he said, guess this is where the game officially goes too far. I smiled back. Or finally starts. Once we stopped pretending in public, the universe decided to test us. Immediately. It started small. A neighbor asking how long we'd been official. A coworker of Evan's casually mentioning they'd seen us at the dinner and saying, didn't know you were that serious. My mom texting me out of the blue, saw your Instagram tag. He's cute. Should I be worried you're not telling me something? We hadn't even posted anything. Someone else had. Each question tightened the knot in my stomach a little more. Because it was one thing to blur the line in private, it was another to realize the world had already accepted us as real. The real pushback came from Evan's lawyer. We were sitting at the kitchen island when Evan put his phone down slowly, like it had just bitten him. She wants documentation, he said. I frowned. Documentation of what? Us, he replied. Proof the relationship is legitimate. Timeline, shared finances, statements. I stared at him. You're kidding. I wish. The irony was brutal. When we were faking it, no one questioned a thing. Now that it was real, or becoming real, we were being audited like a lie. So what? I said carefully. We exaggerate. Evan leaned back, rubbing his face. That's the problem. I don't want to. I studied him. You're scared. He didn't deny it. If we do this honestly, he said, then this isn't just a situation anymore. This becomes us. And that scares you more than lying? He looked at me then. Really looked. Yes. The honesty hurt more than I expected. That night, the distance crept back in. Not physical, emotional. We still shared the bed now, still touched, still kissed. But there was hesitation underneath everything, like we were both waiting for the other to flinch. I couldn't take it. Do you want me? I asked suddenly, lying in the dark, staring at the ceiling. Or do you want this to be convenient? Silence. Then Evan rolled onto his side to face me. I want you, he said, but I've built my whole life on control, on knowing the outcome. And I'm not predictable, I said. He smiled sadly. No, you're not. I swallowed. If this falls apart, I don't walk away untouched. I know, he whispered. That's what scares me. I turned toward him, our foreheads touching. Evan, I said, I didn't sign up to be fake anymore. Not for you. Not for anyone. He closed his eyes. I don't want fake either, he said. I just don't know how to leap without knowing where I'll land. I kissed him then. Slower than usual, grounding. You land with me, I said. He laughed softly, breath shaky. You make it sound simple. It's not, I replied. It's just worth it. The decision came the next morning. Evan sent the lawyer a message. We'll provide real documentation, real timeline, no fabrication. Then he looked at me. If we do this, he said, we don't half-ass it. I raised an eyebrow. Meaning? Meaning dates, families, photos, arguments, the whole thing, I smiled. That sounds terrifying. It is. Good, I said. Means it matters. He laughed, then pulled me into a hug that felt different. Grounded, resolved. Outside, the city went on like nothing monumental had just shifted. Inside our apartment, the game was officially over. This wasn't a scheme anymore. It was a relationship. And now we had to survive it. The past didn't knock. It walked straight in like it still had a key. I came home from work to find a woman standing in our kitchen, wine glass in hand, laughing at something Evan had just said. She was polished in that effortless way. Dark hair, sharp eyes, the kind of confidence that didn't ask permission. Evan froze when he saw me. Hey, he said carefully. This is Claire. The name landed like a dropped plate. My ex, he added. Of course she was. Claire turned, smiling wide. You must be the boyfriend. There it was again. That word. This time, it didn't feel like armor. I nodded. Guess so. She studied me openly. Not rudely, just honestly. Measuring. I was in the neighborhood, she said, swirling her wine. Thought I'd say hi. Evan and I ended things amicably. Evan shot her a look. We agreed you wouldn't. I know, she cut in smoothly. I'm not here to cause trouble. She looked at me again. I just wanted to see who finally managed to pin him down. I smiled tightly. Still working on it. Her laugh was sharp, surprised. I like you. That somehow made it worse. After she left, with a hug that lingered a second too long, the apartment felt smaller. You could have warned me, I said. I didn't know she was coming, Evan replied. She found out through mutual friends. I crossed my arms. And what exactly did she find out? He hesitated. That I stopped lying. The words hit harder than I expected. So she comes back to check if you've relapsed, I asked. That's not fair. No, I snapped, but it feels accurate. Silence stretched between us, thick and familiar in the worst way. She matters, I said quietly. Doesn't she? Evan shook his head. Not like that. But she mattered enough once. Yes, he admitted, and I hurt her by never letting her all the way in. I swallowed. And you're afraid you'll do the same to me. He didn't answer, which was answer enough. The real fracture came a week later. My mom invited us to dinner. Not me, us. Evan agreed immediately, too quickly. The drive there was quiet, tension buzzing under every mile marker. You don't have to impress them, I said. Just be yourself. He laughed humorlessly. That's the problem. Dinner went well. Too well. My mom adored him. My stepdad talked shop with him like they were already family. Everyone saw it. Everyone assumed. On the drive home, Evan was silent. When we got inside, he finally broke. They already see a future, he said. They're planning something I haven't agreed to. I stared at him. They see what's in front of them. And what if I can't be that? He asked. My chest tightened. Then what are you doing with me? He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. I'm trying not to destroy this by promising something I'm not ready for. And I'm trying not to get destroyed by waiting. I shot back. The words hung there. Sharp. Unforgivable. I can't be your rehearsal, I said. I can't be the version of commitment you practice on. Evan stopped pacing. I don't want to lose you, he said. Then stop treating me like a risk assessment. We stood there, breathing hard, both realizing how close we were to the edge. If you walk away, he said quietly, I won't chase you. I nodded. That's what scares me. That night I slept on the couch, not out of spite, out of self-preservation. In the dark, staring at the ceiling, I realized something painful and clarifying. Fake love hadn't hurt. Real love did. And we were about to find out which one Evan was actually capable of choosing. I didn't plan on leaving, but by morning, the decision had already been made somewhere deeper than logic. The sun crept in through the windows, painting the living room gold. Evan was still asleep in the bedroom. I could hear it, the quiet rhythm of him, the same sound that had started to feel like home. That was the problem. I packed slowly, not everything, just enough to mean something. When Evan finally stepped out, hair messy, eyes tired, he stopped short when he saw my bag by the door. So this is it, he said softly. This is me not begging, I replied. There's a difference. He leaned against the wall, breathing like he'd run a mile. If you walk out, I don't know how to fix this. I met his eyes. Then you don't walk behind me, you walk with me, or you don't walk at all. Silence. The longest one yet. Then he crossed the room and did something Evan never did. He chose. I spent years pretending I didn't need anyone, he said. Then I faked a relationship and somehow told the truth by accident. My throat tightened. I don't know how to promise forever, he continued, but I know I don't want a version of my life where you aren't in it. I didn't move. I'm done controlling outcomes, he said. I choose the risk. Slowly, I let the bag drop to the floor. You don't get to half choose me, I said. I'm not, he replied. I'm choosing wrong dinners, uncomfortable questions, your family judging me, my ex watching from a distance, and every scary future thing I can't predict. Then, quieter, I'm choosing you. I stepped into him. Not a dramatic kiss, not fireworks, just a forehead-to-forehead moment where the pretending finally died. Months later, the condo condition was fulfilled. Not because of paperwork. Because we were real. We fought. We adjusted. We learned each other in ways pretending never required. The honeymoon phase was messy and imperfect and honest. One night, sitting on the same couch where it all started, Evan laughed softly. You know, he said, this was supposed to be temporary. I smiled. You were bad at fake dating. He pulled me closer. Good at falling, though. I rested my head on his chest, listening to something real and steady. We didn't go too far. We just finally stopped holding back.